FearScape Media Network, exploring the unknown, one podcast at a time.
You've heard us talk about all the amazing books we've been able to listen to on Audible. Everything from fiction to sci-fi to true crime and more. Audible is the leader in the audiobook industry with a library of over 200,000 audiobooks. Start listening now by going to fearscapepodcast.com/audible.
Something dark is here, flying in the skies, lurking in the woodlands, swimming in the rivers, and hiding under your bed. Join me, Mark L. Watson, and FearScape Media as we delve into the paranormal, the occult, the spiritual, and the esoteric, and peer beyond the veil. Find us everywhere you get your podcasts or search for more information at fearscapemedia.com.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of FearScape Paranormal Podcast. Happy that you're able to join us as we continue to explore and try to understand the strange phenomenon that seems to exist all over the world. Stefan and I are on a journey, and we share that journey with you.
All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another thoughtful yet satisfying episode of FearScape Paranormal Podcast. I am your host, Stefan Gearhart, and I am joined, as always, by my jolly infused co-host, Mr. Josh Rutledge. How are you today, sir?
I am doing fantastic. You know, it's funny when you said, what was it, thoughtful yet satisfying. It reminded me of the Lion King, you know, the slimy yet satisfying. So, yeah.
So you picked up on what I was doing.
Yeah.
So, yeah. We got a cool. I'm gonna just go ahead and say we got a cool ass show tonight because not only are we gonna be talking about secret societies, which is a secret.
Yeah.
But we have a very special guest joining us to talk about secret societies. Our favorite person in secret societies, Alan Greenfield. That's right, author of the Secret Cipher of the UFOnauts. And of course, you know, our boy from Hellier, he's been on there. And
former member of the OTO.
Yeah, absolutely. And a member of the Masons. So we're super excited to have Alan Greenfield back on the show. If you want to get to know him a little bit before, go ahead and check out his book, or go back and check Hellier, or go ahead and check out our 2-part episode with Alan Greenfield way back sometime. It's been a while now.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah. So yeah, we got a really fun show. I'm really looking forward to that. But let's get cracking, because I want to jump straight into this episode and get straight to the psychic word of the week.
And now, the psychic word of the week.
All right, the psychic word of the week comes from the Encyclopedic Psychic Dictionary from June G. Bletzer, PhD, rest in peace, honey bear. The use that I do is I flip through until I feel like I should stop, and here's the thing, it keeps flipping. I have a page, but it keeps flipping back a page, so I'm gonna go back the page and go with that. So the phrase, the first one that popped in to my eyesight here was practical psychometry. So we're going to go with that one. Practical psychometry means to discern psychic information about an individual by holding an article which the individual contacts frequently. Article is pressed on the forehead, solar plexus, or held between the palms of the hands of the psychic. It's like tuning into an extension of the individual through the psychometrist's hands to the individual's subconscious mind. Eyeglasses, wristwatch, wedding ring, or items worn daily are easiest to read. The collar of a dog is used to read for the dog. Emotional vibrations impregnate that which one wears or handles and holds fast if the same vibrations are repeated. Vibrations reveal the owner's health, work, characteristics, inclinations, problems of the past or present. Future events cannot be detected as vibrations do not impregnate until they happen. So the future is essentially a vibrational prophylactic.
So it makes
there
me
is no
think
impregnating.
Yeah, well, it makes me think of like the dogs that they'll use for like law enforcement. If they're trying to find somebody, they'll hold up a piece of clothing or something that has their scent on it,
right?
So the dogs can get a scent. It's kind of the same thing. It's just instead of a smell, you're using the energy,
right?
That's
the
infused.
Vibrational patterns, for sure. Yeah, and I've seen this done. I never knew they were called psychometrists. I just thought they were like. There's another name that I've heard used for it that I can't think of what it is. But yeah, I've seen that before where they'll just hold a picture or watch and tell you about that, or tell you about, and some can even use it as a way to connect to the spirit world, to speak to those spirits. So I guess another facet it, so to speak.
Yeah, it's still very, very interesting. And the way that the definition is written, I don't think it doesn't necessarily imply that the person is deceased.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Like it can be for deceased people, right? But it can also just be to get a tell or a read on whatever is going on in that person's life.
Right. I mean, pretty much what it's saying is that it can only pick up on the vibrations of the past. Dead, alive, it doesn't matter. This object is going to carry the vibrations of the person that held it, touched it, shared its energy with. So that's what they're going to be able to find out. So I think that's very cool. Thank you, Dr. Junji Bletzer. All right, Josh, let's go ahead and move on to our next segment. Man, I'm so ready for Alan Greenfield. All right, I'm going. We're going to move
to
our
next target. Stay on target.
Cryptid of the week.
Hi, y'all. It's the Jersey Devil. Hope y'all are ready to meet some of my friends.
Cryptid of the week.
Thank you, Jersey Devil. We appreciate you allowing us to meet your friends. So who do we got this week that we're going to be meeting?
So in honor of the one and only Alan Greenfield that's coming on the show tonight, I flipped to page 93 in my cryptid book. What's
the name of that book again?
It is Cryptid Creatures, a Field Guide by Kelly Milner Halls.
Very cool.
So, but anyway, so this happens to actually land on a page where it is like the start of a cryptid, and it's oddly enough from Georgia is where. So
that's hilarious.
And the name of the cryptid is Hogzilla.
Hogzilla. This is Keith.
Actually, it makes me think of Brad, because wasn't it?
Yeah, Bradzilla.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, this is just if he had a pet pig, it'd
right?
Be Hogzilla.
Or if he had a motorcycle.
Right. That'd be his Hogzilla. He'd do that too.
Anyways, so this actually first reported in 2004. So fairly recent.
Yeah, fairly new. I like that.
So Hogzilla was not the first giant hog to roam North America. The prehistoric pig Diodon Shawshanishus,
God bless you, and thank you for sharing the Pokemon.
Lived 29 to 19 million years ago in the late Oligocene and oh my God, these people. It lived a long time ago. All right.
Thank you.
A long ass time.
Thank you.
Ago.
I don't think super scientists are listening to the show anyways, so I think you're good.
It was approximately 7 feet tall and the shoulders as much as 12 feet long. It weighed nearly half a ton. But eyewitness accounts got here where it says Christopher Columbus brought pigs to the Americas from Spain 500 years ago, but couldn't have imagined they'd one day evolve to predatory hybrids running wild in the rural South. But hunting guide and eyewitness Chris Griffin could testify to their modern day enormity. He shot the first documented pig/wild boar hybrid dubbed Hogzilla at his Boss Ken Hollyoaks fish farm and hunting reserve in Alapaha, Georgia in 2004. He says the plantation owner said he'd seen him several times. Griffin said in a radio interview he set out to bag it himself. Once Griffin shot it, measured it, and passed it for a photo, he buried it.
Now, if he didn't set that sucker on fire in the ground and make a freaking Hawaiian luau pig barbecue, then what a waste.
The hog was old and meat was no good, he said, and the head was too big and too expensive to mount. So, I mean, it got some. This is unfortunate because they have a little picture of what baby Hogzilla looks like, and it's so freaking cute.
It's like Piglet.
Yeah, it's like, well, it has like a weird shaped snout, but yeah. So what it doesn't have here is, so we talked about the prehistoric Hogzilla, but it doesn't give any details around the size of the Hogzilla.
Well, I would assume it's probably similar, especially if, you know, our sighting is recent, 2004. I'm sure it's very, very similar.
But, you know, I've actually heard about that. Like the pigs in the South are really like a problem.
Yeah. Well,
Like,
I didn't know that boars and pigs weren't natural to the United States.
Yeah.
I
actually knew that because I watched a documentary a few years ago that talked about how wild boars and pigs are basically destroying the land in the South because they rut up everything, and so you can't plant or any of that kind of stuff. And they do get, like, in the documentary that I watched a few years ago, they had one on video that was like stood from the ground up, like 5 foot 5 inches tall. That's a big freaking pig. I mean, that's like you wouldn't want to meet that in
meat.
Like some people have even speculated that there's an older cryptid type video going around from like LA where there's like this kid is exploring a drainage tunnel, and he comes across these two glowing eyes in the pit, almost near pitch black, and then it starts making this squealing noise, and people have speculated that was potentially a wild boar that was in LA County. And somebody had said, well, the eyes were too high for it to be a pig. But again, you have to think about the size that these things get. So, I mean, it could have definitely been that. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, if Christopher Columbus had never brought pigs over, Ned Beatty would have never had to squeal like a pig. He'd have been squealing like something else. Gonna make you squeal like a chipmunk.
So Christopher Columbus brought disease and pigs, apparently.
Yes, and so much more. The other thing I was going to say about pigs that's very, very interesting, which to me, this, I can feed into this evolution theory, is pigs evolve fast. Like, they can evolve within their life. If a domesticated pig gets loose, within a week, I saw this documentary. Within a week, it'll grow hair, it'll grow tusks, and be completely undomesticated for the rest of its life. That within a week, it de-evolves or evolves, whichever way you want to look at it, back into a boar within a week of being out in the wild.
So that is definitely a Pokemon that you need because it will upgrade fast.
Yep. So, but yeah, that is something about pigs, is that they are one of the few animals that can, evolve or de-evolve without generations. Like, it can happen now, and it happens fast. That's why when a pig gets loose, they send out search parties, to go find it, because if not, it won't be domesticated anymore after about a week or so.
Then Babe must have been like a super pig, because a pig in the city was loose for like a couple weeks, and he still stayed a pig.
Well, he was in the city, so maybe he was like evolving into, human. Like he was evolving into W.C. Fields, like essentially. Like that's where he was headed, right? So, but in the wild, he's turning into a wild dog, boar. So it's different than a dog. Anyways, all right. So that's our cryptid of the week. Was Hogzilla, and y'all be careful, because Toei does not like you using their names. So I'm just letting you know. Don't. Careful. Anyways, let's go ahead and move on and get to our UAP sighting of the week. All right, Josh, what do we have for our unidentified aerial phenomena UFO sighting of the week?
Yeah, so before I picked the cryptid of the week, I picked Georgia, again in honor of Mr. Greenfield that's coming on tonight. And then the cryptid ended up being from Georgia too,
right?
So,
which is hilarious, yeah.
Right. So this comes from Cordell, Georgia. This happened on January 13th, 2021, at approximately 9:15 at night.
I've been to Cordell, nice little town, just a little stopover. My dad and I used to go there on the way to Florida. We'll stay at the Motel 6.
I feel like I've probably driven through it.
It's right off of 75. I mean, it's right off 75.
So, but so it goes a little something like this. A triangular-shaped, huge object the size of a football field hovered just above the treetops with flashing red lights. It made no sound and then vanished. Approximately 10 minutes later, what looked like the same or an identical object hovered over my house, moved very slowly, and disappeared again. Approximately 10 minutes later, we saw what appeared to be the same object, but was miles away in the sky, and we recorded that on video. You can only see the red flashing lights from the video.
Red flashing light?
I mean, it's freaking huge, dude. To be football shaped, like football field size over top of your house. I mean, that's
massive. I'm like, I want to know. I'm like, did it block out the whole sky?
That's what I was like. It must have like blocked out the sun.
Yeah, or was it like see-through in the middle? Like
9:15 at night, so there's no sun. But still.
Yeah.
Well, I mean that's and it's like it goes along with the theory that I can't remember if I expressed it on here or not, but I know I expressed it to you in Santosh. Is do these things operate? Like, do they operate more freely at night? Because they don't have to use as much technology to hide their appearance, right?
Right. Yeah. That, it's interesting because I don't know if you and I talked about that, or if I talked to Marcia Berry from the Arizona MUFON or not about that. But that's something that has come out of my mouth recently, was talking about is one of the reasons they show up at night is that it's easier to hide.
Yeah.
But then it's like, why put bright lights on, right? I don't know.
Well, I mean, I think it. So part of me says that they put lights on their craft so that other, like, I guess, for lack of a better word, human craft, because we don't know what they are, right? So I'm just going to say known craft. Let's say known craft. So other known craft can know that they're there, and they don't just have like a mid-air collision.
Sure. Yeah. If we always assume that they're super fast or hypersonic or something like that. But maybe they move the speed of a helicopter and they don't want a helicopter hitting them.
Well, and again, if they really are, not meaning us any harm, then it would make sense that they would try to at least make themselves somewhat visible, at least from the eye, so that if you're flying an airplane or something, you don't run into it. So,
right.
Because that would be bad.
Yeah.
I mean, a goose could take down an airplane, as we discussed last
week.
Well,
I mean, here's another example. There's a lot of theory that, ETs use our world as a zoo, right? That they come to look at us, that we're a zoo, or even like a nature documentary. And if you think about it, you got these nature documentaries filming, like I just watched this thing the other day on tree frogs. Okay. You think about the size of a human versus a tree frog. There's a guy, probably a whole crew, microphones, cameras, probably got blinking lights all over it, right? They're not, you know, to the frog, they're like, holy crap. Like, you know,
Yeah.
like, but we don't give a shit. We're not like, well, we don't want it to know that we're here. We better cover these lights. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, maybe there's some of that, but this could be the same thing. It's like nighttime is just when the park is open. And it's like that's when they go out, and you just kind of got to be quiet and be as stealthy as you can, because if you do, you're gonna ruffle the feathers of the humans down there, and they're gonna run off and freak out.
So what you're telling me is that there's a Steve Irwin type guy that's like, what we have here is a North American male, sleep, snug in his bed, and we are going to shake his house with a sonic boom and watch him react.
Yeah, but he's pretty much made of jello or something.
Oh, okay. Or just energy or something.
Yeah. Is essentially what it boils down to. But yeah, still very, very interesting. One of my early UAP sightings was a big rectangular, UAP that was above my house that was huge. I wouldn't say a football field, but I would at least say half a football field. So I can slightly imagine that, but still massive. And I want to see video. They said they got video of it. I want to see it.
They do. Yeah, but you know what, like I've talked about before, New Fork is not always the best about making those videos available. So
yeah,
I'll have to go and check MUFON and see if they reported it there too, and then maybe they have the video. So
cool. All right, well, let's move on, and let's get to our final segment before we get to AG himself. Let's get into some creepy catch-up.
Creepy catch-up. Creepy catch-up. Creepy catch-up. Creepy catch-up. Y'all, it's creepy.
All right, so creepy catch-up. Gotta be honest, haven't had anything super creepy happen to me, though I have been digging into the deep web again, which is always scary. Looking up, paranormal, different stuff, UFO related stuff, and been going down some rabbit holes, but haven't had any Men in Black show up at my door, so I feel like I guess I'm just looking at old stuff. So
yeah. Well, so I have had a little bit of creepy catch up in that, like last Saturday, I made a proclamation, if you will, for myself and said, hey, I'm no longer going to look for evidence that I have psychic gifts. I'm just going to accept that I have them and then move forward. So I made that statement, and ever since then I've seen all kinds of stuff and had all kinds of stuff happen. So like I was standing at my counter making coffee, and I saw a person in a gray shirt walk by my kitchen bay window. Like I stepped outside to see if there was like the meter guy or something.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like the water company dude.
Nobody there. And I have a motion camera on the corner of my house, and it was walking towards that direction. So like it would have gone off and pinged me, saying, hey, you got motion at your garage. So there's that. I've seen in the office that I work in, there's like no light from outside in that office because I've got curtains and stuff to try to keep it warm mainly and keep the noise down. And I've been catching shadows left and right, like all around me, moving around me, flashes of light on the wall and stuff like that, that again, there's nowhere for it to reflect off of or any of that kind of stuff. Just a bunch of noises in the house, like when my kids are at school and there's like the heat's not running or anything, just kind of random papers shuffling and stuff like that kind of noises. So yeah, I mean, the light in the bathroom, like flickering, just like, and it's an LED bulb. It's not like it, they either work or they don't. So, but yeah, so all of that kind of stuff, again, mainly since I made that proclamation. And then I'm continuing down with the whole gateway experience stuff and just continue to have just some really crazy dreams, like the dream that I had last night of I was staying with these people that I've never seen before in my life, and the father of the family was turning into a werewolf and trying to eat everybody.
Oh, that's healthy.
Yeah. So we were like trying to run and get away, and my dog, who's been dead for a year and a half, showed up, and he was like dragging a werecat behind him.
Go, Eli!
So like use the werecat to distract the werewolf. It was just weird, but yeah. So just all kinds of crazy dreams like that. So that's basically what I've had going on in my creepy catch up.
Nice. Yeah. Like I said, if things have been happening, I started a new job recently, so I'm just exhausted. I'm tired. Not paying attention. I had to take a break from the Gateway experience because I was like, I don't want to have that going on while I'm trying to get up super early for this new job. That's all I need. And so, yeah, I've had to take a break from that. But yeah, that's where I'm at. I've been, and I guess I'm in that position where I shouldn't be. I'm like, I want to see some stuff. But I haven't seen anything. So not even my dreams. My dreams have been pretty normal. Had a sad dream last night that I discovered a family that was like I was really close to when I was a kid that I had just randomly apparently forgotten about. And then I all these memories came flooding back, and they're like, we've always wondered what happened to you, and you always used to come over and you were like one of our family, and then you just disappeared. I'm like, I'm so sorry, I forgot about. And I woke up like all crying. That's what's going on with me. Sappy catch up. That's what's going on with me. And the mom in that looked like I don't remember which one. Not Don Knotts, the other one on Three's Company, his wife. So I don't remember if it was Roper or Furley. I can't remember who's who all of a sudden. But his wife was the mom in that.
Don Knotts was Roper.
He was Ropey?
Yeah.
Rope-a-dope? Okay, then it was Mrs. Furley is who was the mother in that dream. Of mine, and I hugged on Mrs. Furley for quite a while. But yeah, anyways, let's go ahead and get to Mr. Reverend Dr. Suffragette Bishop Anglican Minister Alan Greenfield. We'll be right back after an ad break. Hey everybody, Stefan here. This episode is sponsored by the great folks over at Box Mountain. Box Mountain is a subscription box service that has my favorite sub box yet, the Cryptid Crate. You see, Josh got one of these for his birthday, and I was super jealous because it was packed full of merchandise pertaining to cryptids. The box he received first was all about the Flatwoods Monster, which of course is one of our favorites, and it had a t-shirt, a book, a patch, mug, and some awesome stickers. So I checked out the price to get one for myself, and let me tell you, it is well worth the value. These make excellent gifts for yourself or even friends that are cryptid lovers as well. Now, if you use the coupon code FearScape, you will get 25% off the first month for any new subscription or 10% off individual purchases. So go ahead and head on over to fearscapepodcast.com/cryptidcrate now and get yourself one today.
Hey everyone, Ray Robinson here, host of the Unsensitive Podcast. You're probably wondering, what does unsensitive mean? Well, it's a completely made-up word to define a topic that is insensitive to talk about at family gatherings and parties, but you talk about them anyway. It's a podcast that you can send your most clueless family members to save them the embarrassment of asking these questions themselves. New episodes drop every Tuesday evening at 7 p.m., part of the FearScape Media Network. Because quite honestly, what's scarier than facing your own misconceptions about the world around you?
All right, we are back. Thank you guys for sticking around after the break. We have the voluptuous Alan Greenfield here with us like we promised. and I know I used a descriptive word that requires sight and you're listening, but still, if you could see what I could see. Whoo, Lordy.
Oh, Lordy, Lordy, Lordy.
Lordy. But no, thank you.
Lordy,
thanks
feet don't desert me now.
Thank you, Alan, for joining us again, man. It's been great to have you back.
I am delighted to be here. You guys almost laugh at my deranged sense of rumor. And that's what it's about tonight, right?
Oh,
yes,
yeah, that's right. We're going to be talking about secret societies. They're so secret that we have a list of them.
So I was thinking that being that tonight we're talking about secret societies and we have the great Mr. Alan Greenfield, Dr. Alan Greenfield on the call, we should take our listeners through some sort of an initiation to get this started, I think. So everybody
take off your pants. Wait, is this not Boy Scouts? Because that's what our
oh, too far.
Hey, I was in Boy Scouts. I can say.
Hey, I was a Boy Scout too.
Yeah, so was I. So, but no.
See, there's a conspiracy.
Yep.
It's a 3-degree system.
Yeah.
Right? Tenderfoot, first class, second class, third class.
Yep.
And then you start to get those merit badges. And then they take you here in Georgia out to Camp Bird Adams to find out what it's really all about. I remember my eldest son, the movie maker, Alex. We went on a father-son hike to Camp Bird Adams he was Order of the Arrow in the Cub Scouts and was considering being a Boy Scout. And at some point during the night, we wandered over to some other Scoutmaster's gathering of his troops. And he was hazing people by looping a rope around their foot and hoisting them up in a tree by a branch of the tree. So he did not become a Boy Scout.
Yeah, really.
He said, Dad, I said, they're not all like this. My troop was never like this, but it was really scary. And I was moved to, should I intervene here or get reinforcements?
All I remember about Boy Scouts is the snipe hunting was always epic. So.
Good old snipe hunting.
Did you ever catch a snipe? No. Well, we usually used a Girl Scout camp. Actually, it's an interesting Amerindian place because there's a thing called Rock Eagle, and it's called Rock Eagle Camp. But it was Girl Scout camp. So we were doing Girl Scouting, as it were, in the Boy Scouts. There was a merit badge for that, but you couldn't wear it. Not if you so-called scored,
Okay, then. So, all right. So, I've got I went out and compiled a list of what I think are the top 9. I felt like I had to have 9. So, the significance of 9 and whatnot. And so, just going to talk through them here and weigh in as we go. So.
Right. So, yeah, what we're looking at here is not necessarily a history of secret societies, but just kind of like a quick study on a couple of them, correct?
An introduction to 9, let's say.
Cool.
Okay, before you go there, let me, I don't know if this will interfere with the list because I don't know what's on the list because my preference is always not to know what I'll be asked about. But I wanted to make that distinction between 2 very different kinds of secret societies. One are those that are secret mystical societies that supposedly through initiation raise your level of consciousness, and they are secret for varying reasons. Some of them perhaps justifiable. Secrecy is the enemy of the truth as far as I'm concerned, but some of them are just to make it mysterious. Then there are the group of things that are genuinely secret societies that nevertheless are political in nature, and they're a lot scarier. Yes. Because I remember the, what was it, 2000 and whenever Bush and Bush Jr. and John Kerry were running against each other, and it transpired that they were both bonesmen from the Skull and Bones Society, and each of them was asked, totally separately, of course, so would you tell us about it? And they both said, it is a secret society. So.
Yeah, and as was, of course, Bush Sr. And man, the more and more I'm digging in stuff, he was apparently a part of a couple secret societies.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. And his father, Senator Bush, the elder, his father was a member of the Skull and Bones as well. So it's a family tradition, as it were.
Yep.
Well, so they're on the list, but they're number 4. We got to get through 3 others before we get there. So and thanks for the distinction there, Alan. And I do have a mixture of the 2 types that you kind of mentioned there. So it's important, I think, that when we go through the ones that are the first type, the Enlightenment type, that we just call those out. But I do have a couple on the list, and like you said, it's not necessarily everybody thinks about secret societies in like you said, the secret is the enemy of the truth. But there are some things that are secretive, not because they're trying to, rule the world or whatever. But they have information that is really meant for the people who put in the time and effort to want to know more about that, whatever it is. So
right. Well, and you've got some of those secret societies blur the line between a society and, say, a cult or a religion, and especially, you get into that first Enlightenment type. I mean, I think immediately of like Gardnerian Wicca. I came into the guard practice, and so there's things that I'm oath-bound I don't talk about, right? Is that religion? Is it society? There's these different things. So some of these things will blur that line, I think, of religion. And then some of the things you think about the Masonic Order and some of these other societies, and then the stuff that they do supposedly runs into ritual magic and practice, and then we're in that line. So
in Gardner's day, if you were explicit about the degrees, particularly the 3rd degree and the great right, which I won't describe, not because I'm under any oaths or even believe in oaths, except to the Constitution, or we're kind of shattered. Because aren't we under martial law? QAnon says so. And
yes.
They're not a secret society. It's one guy in St. Petersburg, Russia. Yeah. But I didn't say that. I'm sorry. That was said by somebody interfering on the line.
You must be a freaking vampire. I already know it. That's the only reason you'd say that.
Or a lizard person.
Yeah, I am a lizard person because I'm Jewish. And if you take the word reptilian and substitute the word Jew, you will find that all the old canards about Jews, whenever there was a plague, the Jews poisoned the well, blah, 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 blah. They're all the same things that get regurgitated in the reptilian circle. So that isn't a secret society. That's just a bunch of anti-Semitic idiots.
Yeah, I didn't know
using
that.
I didn't realize that.
Exactly the same, word for word.
Oh my
except
goodness.
They say it's the reptilians. It's like there used to be a political group that I forget the name of it, and probably that's for the best. But they would use the word British to mean Jews. Now, don't ask me what that means, because there aren't that many British Jews. But anyway.
I get that. Yeah. So essentially what you're saying is the Jewish space laser is actually a reptilian space laser in today's vernacular.
Yes, it's reptilian, and the Jews get a lot of bad press because of what those evil reptilians are doing.
Interesting.
But we are forgiven because the Pope said we didn't kill Jesus.
Good.
At least I didn't. But I was out of the country at the time.
Must have been before COVID when there was.
I was in a different Roman province.
All right. First on the list, we're Knights Templar.
Oh, perfect start.
Yep. So
this is the Knights of the Columbus, right?
No, this is not Knights of Columbus. Come on now. No, Knights Templar. This is like the Holy Land and the Crusades and all of that kind of stuff. So, and probably there have been numerous documentaries and all this kind of stuff that talks about the Knight Templar. And of course, they got really famous a few years ago when Dan Brown did his book around the whole, secret of Mary, having another kid.
Alert.
Spoiler. Oh, whatever.
Code.
Look, if somebody was going to watch it, you'd have watched it by now. Come on.
It was Son of Jesus goes to France and founds the Merovingian dynasty, which was, of course, overthrown by the Carolingians 500 years later. And nevertheless, You know, the fleur-de-lis, if you look at it properly, looks exactly like a Star of David, only it doesn't. But that's neither here nor there.
That's right.
It looks like a fleur-de-lis, which is a flower.
Yep.
Yeah.
For you non-French speakers, medieval French.
My favorite Knights Templar documentary has to be Monty Python and the Search for the Holy Grail. That's probably my favorite.
That
by far the
is the true one. You see,
Yeah.
all the other stories about the Templars are not true. But Monty Python and the Holy Grail, I saw that in a class in graduate school at the University of Arizona. Ergo, it's the real deal. Why would they show it otherwise?
Well, you know, I always thought it was so. We could talk through the Knights Templar stuff, but I mean, basically, they go off to the Holy Land, they fight for a bunch of people, they come back. The church hates them, and they just kill them all. In like a 5-second synopsis. But why it's first on the list for me is that it directly relates to the next one on my list, which is the Freemasons, which is the one I really.
Well, let's start with the Templars, because the Freemasons claim descent from the Templars, and in fact, there's a Templar degree in several different rites of Freemasonry. In fact, technically, I'm a Templar because I hold a Knight Kadosh degree in the ancient order of antiquity that I used to mistakenly be in, thinking that it knew something. But that's not important right now. What is important is the Templars started out in the First Crusade, which was at the turn of the millennium, first millennium, to guard the roads so that Christian pilgrims could make it to Jerusalem and back alive. And they, at that time, under their first Grand Master, seemed to have done a pretty good job at that. And then along the First Crusade was the only really successful crusade. So essentially, they and other crusaders took over. Although they were, answerable to European powers, and especially to the Pope, especially the Templars, who had a special oath of allegiance to the Pope as opposed to the King of France or whatever. Anyway, they ruled the Holy Land for 100 years until Saladin came along and said, No. But supposedly they found the Ark of the Covenant and this and that, all kinds of relics, and took it back to France when the Crusaders. Actually, they were the last to hold out in Accra, a spooky city, by the way, apparently they slowly retreated. They were given one island after another, and then the Muslim armies would move in and they'd go to another island. I think they ended up back in France, and they were given special rights to do banking, just as the Jews were. And of course, people who loan money, if that's the only profession they have, are apt to have a lot of people in debt to them who possibly resent them. I don't know. I just don't pay them. Take that out, guys. Take it out.
But yeah, I mean, so at the height of their power, they owned like the island of Cyprus. They had a fleet of ships. They lent money when the Crusades were happening. I mean, so you're right. I mean, then they left and went back to France. And pretty much picked up their, the whole banking industry, and that was around the 1300s or so when all of this was
correct.
Yep.
And at that point, they had incurred both the wrath and the envy of the French king, and apparently at that point, Catholic politics being what it was in the Middle Ages, the King of France basically controlled the papacy. So he got the Pope to agree to issue a ban on them. And they were all arrested on the Friday the 13th, a day that will live in infamy. No, it's the wrong president.
Well, but I think it's interesting because they refer to that as the Black Friday, yet we jokingly refer to Black Friday for like the day after Thanksgiving when we get to spend a lot of money. So,
well, that's what America is all about. Yeah. Spend it, put it on your credit card, and don't worry about the Templars. They're all dead.
Don't worry about the Templars. I do like the other names that they were known for, which was the Poor Fellow Soldiers of Christ, and of course the Order of Solomon's Temple, yada yada, stuff like that. I think Order of Christ itself was just in there, stuff like that. So they were very.
And of course I think one of the big symbols that came out of them was, of course, the Cross of Lorraine.
Right. Is that the red one?
Lorraine.
Yeah.
Lorraine. And I thought that was Joan of Arc's great symbol when she persuaded the English to leave France. But it's a basic French symbol. It was a French symbol of the French underground, the Marquis, during World War II as well. So, but the point is that later organizations, the Freemasons, the Rosicrucians, etc., adapted. We are descended from the Knights Templar. There was a group of Templars in England. In fact, there's a Templar temple in London, in the middle of London. You can go there. The building is still there. And the English crown, and especially the Scottish government, were reluctant to suppress the Templars because they didn't see them doing anything wrong. Mm-hmm. And apparently they didn't owe them any money. So they survived there long after they had been exterminated in France and Germany and the rest of the Holy Roman Empire, as it was called. Famously, neither holy nor Roman nor an empire.
Nor an empire.
It's France.
It's funny here. I was when I was looking at the Cross of Lorraine, I found out, we were talking 2 episodes back. We had John E.L. Tenney on, and we were talking about some of this stuff that shows up in advertising, and the Cross of Lorraine is used in the ExxonMobil logo. Nabisco has it in their logo, and it's actually stamped on every Oreo cookie.
I mean, technically Red Cross, right?
Yeah.
And so I have eaten the Cross of Lorraine repeatedly.
Yes,
that is
okay.
I've even dunked it in milk. So
that is my Eucharist, boy. Let me tell you.
Especially the double stuffed.
Oh, there's so much holy in that. Oh,
that will put you in direct communion with the divine.
Anybody who
will say, "Can I have one?"
Anybody who's listening, who's like a exec at Oreo, I'm telling you right here, double-decker Oreo. So cookie, cream, cookie, cream, cookie. Make that happen. That will sell like hotcakes.
I'm just gonna put together my own box.
Copyright that.
and then
call them 3 Storios.
Or do like do cookie.
That's not
cream,
bad.
Cookie cream, cookie, dip the whole thing in fudge.
I mean, are you fucking hungry right now, Jack?
No, he's one of those people that belongs to Death by Chocolate. It's a suicide pact that you don't actually die, but it's to die for,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's and I'm slightly allergic to chocolate too, so it's it's a double-edged sword. So
nice.
Wow.
All right. So moving on from Knights Templar, thank you for the coverage. Sorry that I was going to skip them, but Freemasons is next on my list, and I've always had a really big interest in Freemasons. Number one, because, well, I guess two reasons. One, my dad and grandfather are both have always been in the Masonic Lodge. My grandfather has like always been in a leadership role, the Grand Poobah or whatever it's called, and all that kind of stuff for Kentucky. And then 2, The National Treasure movies with Nicolas Cage, and the amount of attention and stuff that it puts. I mean, it just they just entice me for some reason. So.
For me, From Hell, man, that's what it gets me. Jack the Ripper being a Mason.
Freemasonry has changed so much over the centuries that it's impossible to say very much other than that they were called Freemasons, because in the early 1700s, it was basically a group of aristocrats in England that met in a pub, probably with some libations to the gods, and decided on the rules for Freemasonry. None of them were Masons, but they said they were not operative Masons, as in people who make bricks and build buildings, but are speculative Masons, meaning they use the tools of the working Masons, but not getting their hands dirty. And then a lot of people who wanted to be influential with the aristocracy were allowed to join, and that's where the main body of Freemasonry came from. Of course, there are other bodies that, like the Memphis Mizraim and Egyptian Rite and all kinds of things that have certain similar rituals, but that are very different. In fact, the Ancient Order of Antiquity, of which I was a member, if you took out the name Baphomet, and which, by the way, is a Templar thing. Some Templar being tortured was trying to say the word Mohammed, mispronounced it, said, Baphomet, we worship Baphomet, meaning they worship Mohammed because maybe they take the thumb screws off or something.
I saw that about the Templars, that they found things about Baphomet in the Temple on the Mound and stuff.
Yeah, but it would be, it's a corruption of the name Mohammed, and people in that period in Europe were so ignorant about their opposition in the Middle East that they probably would have mispronounced it, especially under the kind of torture that was used to get True Confessions. That's the name of a magazine. True Confessions.
Well, you could also argue, though, that that the Freemasons that you talked about, the aristocrat folks, they did work with bricks, but their bricks were made of flesh, and they worked every day, and that they manipulated people to build the society is what I'm getting at there. So
I didn't know that. That's shocking. I thought they were a proto-union of trade workers, but hey, your story sounds better, and like the late Jim Wasserman's book on the Templars. You can make anything seem plausible if you want to. My friend Craig Heimbichner once wrote a book called Blood on the Altar, where he said the Ancient Order of Antiquity, to which I and Wasserman belong, we were the secret leaders who were out to overthrow the world. And I thought, are we? Good grief. Wasserman and I won't even stay in the same room together. When he died, I confess that in my head I was hearing, ding dong, the witch is dead. But so I enlightened Craig, and he wrote another book, which was very interesting because, like your family, I have a lot of people of the older generation in my family that were members of the local Masonic lodge, because every town in the Southeast had a Masonic lodge before television, before widescreen movie, before any of the diversions, the internet, anything that people actually do now. And it was just, it's what men did on Saturday nights. So my father was not a member. He was a member of the B'nai B'rith, which is a whole different story. It actually does run the world, but that's not important. It's not important that B'nai B'rith runs the world. It's just important that you not know it. So
okay, well, I don't know what you're talking about. So there you go. But no, I was thinking.
Think of the Knights of Columbus, and then think of the Jewish version of the Knights of Columbus, and that's the B'nai B'rith. It's a real organization.
So
really, I wouldn't make that up. My father was in Gate City Lodge. You can look it up, I guess.
I believe you.
No, I believe you. No, so I had a point I was trying to make, and didn't want to lose it. So, one of the things that I was talking to somebody else about is that it seems like as the internet has blown up, it seems like enrollment in or whatever pledging for the Freemasons has gone down. If you think that a lot of the Masonic Lodge is meant for that socialization and camaraderie, and if you get that now more easily than needing to go and belong to a lodge via social media or whatever the case may be, maybe that's why their membership numbers have slacked off.
I agree with that. You see a lot less younger people at like Shriner things, at Mason sponsored events, things, any of those kind of like, those lodges that Fred Flintstone was in, stuff like that. Like that. You see a lot less younger people. Yeah, the Water Buffaloes. That's what it was. The Loyal Order of the Water Buffaloes. But yeah, you don't see that. Yeah, I didn't think about that. You're absolutely right. But to me, that makes it now more mysterious because it isn't everybody in it now. Like it's kind of giving it mystery again.
Well, and it makes me wonder. I mean, I would assume that even let's take the conspiracy theorist part for a moment and say that folks in Freemasons do know secrets of the world. Let's just assume that there are folks in the order that know secrets of the world. I would imagine that circle as a whole of the entire organization is probably very, very small, as opposed to everybody on the outside circles that are actually meeting in lodges on Saturday nights or helping with fish fries and things like that. Those folks don't know the secrets of the world, so to speak. Mm-hmm. That circle is really, really small and at the center of the organization, I would think.
I don't know if it's at the center. It's a part of the organization and has been from day one. I think there are Masonic secrets. I know there are Masonic secrets that are known to a lesser number of people. But during one of the many upsurges against Freemasonry, the rituals that were at one time had millions of followers, they would modify them. In the 1820s, the second largest political party in the United States was the Anti-Masonic Party. And that was based on the fact that almost everybody that was in the government was a Freemason, and for people who weren't, it was considered some sort of a subversive thing, particularly after some ex-Mason exposed the rituals of that time, a guy named Morgan, and he got murdered. And his body dumped in Canada, an upstate New York lodge, and that set off a whole storm of controversy because it sounded like they were, that was the oaths are in fact blood oaths in all of these societies. If you take them literally, if I betray this oath and betray the order, may my head be severed from my body, and blah, 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 blah. Stuff that, if they actually did it, well, maybe in the 1820s, but if they did it now, they would be up the creek and paddleless. To paraphrase the well-known phrase. Anyway, about 20 years ago, the Southern Baptist Convention condemned Freemasonry as a demonic organization. And Southern jurisdiction in the United States of regular Freemasonry is the largest jurisdiction in the world. At that time, it was about 1 million people. And they were distressed because the vast majority of them were members of the Baptist Church. So they were suddenly in a conflicting situation. So they came up with things like they would bring the families to sort of rituals where Jesus would rise up from the floor and bless the people, and all kinds of things that seemed totally unlike their rituals. They were attacked for using the King James Bible as temple furniture not as holy scripture, but I even know people that have, they will, in the Shriners, they swear on the Quran, but they're not Muslims, well, not most of them anyway. That's just, they're trying very, very hard to do Oriental shticklock, which I can't translate because I'm not sure there is a translation. Stuff that seems, from the Middle East and Lawrence of Arabia and all that.
Well,
so it's changed, but there are bodies like the affiliation I have with the ancient and primitive rite of Memphis, Et Misraim, which is originally a French rite. Actually, it's originally an Egyptian rite. That's why it's called the Egyptian rite. That have the same things that were in the original, and they're not secret. Or my book, what was it called? The Complete Rite of Memphis would probably have wound me up
right
with Morgan over the Canadian border.
Right, and I noticed, you talk about Morgan a bit in the Complete Cipher as well. That's where I recognize that name from. And it's very interesting, but what interests me, Josh, is the whole Southern Baptist Convention, because both your dad and your grandfather are huge Southern Baptists. So I wonder how they took all.
Well, so it's interesting because I remember going to ceremonies with my grandfather and dad, but there would be like a part where the family would participate, and then all the family members would get ushered out to like the food hall to get whatever the meal was going to be, and then they would have additional ceremonies that were still behind closed doors. So that's what I remember is there was a family component, but then the family was there for like maybe 10 minutes or something. It's like I remember when my dad was initiated in for his what's it, the third degree is where you basically start
Master Mason. Yeah.
So, and I remember they blindfolded the guys that were coming in, and they told them they were going to be stepping on rat poop, and it was raisins. And like that was looking back now, that was solely for the families to think about and say, oh, this is not serious. They're just there joking around all the time. And so to remove any type of serious consideration for what was actually happening behind closed doors.
Interesting.
If you read Duncan's Ritual of Freemasonry, which is widely available, it shows you the York Rite, which is like the second largest Masonic rite. They're very serious about the things that go on in those degrees. They're meant to be scary, and they are. Maybe not as scary as the Oddfellows ritual, which is probably not on your list because they're not extinct, but they're certainly not what they once were. And there are other things too. And if I may just get in a little bit of editorial, I periodically hear something about the Grand Lodge of my particular state not liking the Memphis Rite and making dire, I wouldn't call them threats, that's too extreme, but implying, oh, well, you don't want to be doing our stuff. But they're still basically all white, all male, and they're like, trip back to the 1950s. And I had a recent experience where a close female friend of mine had a meeting with some of these people in a North Georgia regular Masonic lodge to try and see if there was any points in common that we could do something with. And they said to her, they tolerated her until the lodge master came in, and then they made a quick retreat. Apparently she wasn't real welcome there. But she said, oh, yeah, and the Prince Hall Lodge, that would be the Black Masonic Lodge, the colored folks meet down the street. And I thought, this was in 2017 or 18? What's wrong with this picture? These people need to, if they profess the brotherhood of man, maybe they ought to revise who they're talking about.
Well, I remember this is not on my list, but I remember my grandmother was a part of something that was like something the Eastern Star.
Eastern Star is the women's auxiliary of the regular Freemasons, and it does good things. I mean, it has a home for the elderly that in every state, and they do good work. But so do the Shriners. I mean, I think of the Shriners as silly, but the stuff they do for children, I'm not going to argue with that. That's wonderful stuff.
Whether or not circuses really still have a place in today's society, but what they do for the Shriners Hospital and stuff like that is definitely.
Yeah, the hospital, yes. The circus, their circus was never much of a circus anyway. It wasn't Barnum and Bailey. It was the poor man's circus, and it was mostly a guy with a net swinging on a trapeze.
Yeah.
So right. Well, we had a buddy whose grandfather or great grandfather was in the Shriner Circus, and he was the guy that lifted weights with his nipples. He would have pierced nipples, and would lift weights with those. So
the shrine is intended to be something of a burlesque, whereas Freemasonry is intended to be a serious communication of what William Buckley once called bomb fog, the brotherhood of man and the fatherhood of God. So French Masonry doesn't require that you believe in a deity, but the American version does, and I think so does the English version.
Yeah, which I always thought was the G in the symbolism was for God, but this describes it as just a greater significant power, a grand architect of the universe, if you will. So they're not really saying God, but that you have to believe that there is some greater power than us that is in control.
So intelligent design.
Just like Alcoholics Anonymous. How interesting. But the G actually stands for geometry, the most estimable of sciences. You have to memorize that. So if you're going to be a Mason, get used to geometry. But of course, the great geometrician is God. I mean, according to their doctrine. I've not thought of God as a geometric, but then again, there's that whole thing about the Fibonacci sequence, and that's going pretty far afield. Next group. I think we've trashed the Freemasons.
Yeah. Okay.
Next group.
Next on the list, the Illuminati. Come on down.
I thought that was going to be number one.
When I broke with the hierarchical organizations, there was a group that called themselves Congregational Thelema in California, and they were independent, weren't beholden to anybody. So I modified that and came up with some ideas that basically are decentralist ideas, and we eventually settled on the name Free Illuminism. Now, Illuminism means people who are on whatever path of illumination. In a sense, we're doing that right now. We're trying to help illuminate people and maybe sell a few books. In that order, everybody.
Right. Yeah. Or a T-shirt or two, whatever. So.
T-shirts and what do they call them? Patrons?
Patreon.
I know nothing.
Patrons.
Patreon, yes, Patreon, or Patrioff, as the case may be. For the underground version.
Patreon, the Patri.
So I get letters periodically from all over the world saying, I want to join the Illuminati, and I don't know how to explain to them that this isn't the Illuminati, because the Illuminati started out in the 18th century in Bavaria. A lot of movement.
Yeah, 1776, May 1st, 1776.
Interesting year that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it was a political organization that wanted to infiltrate the Freemasons and influence them towards being anti-monarchy and and essentially Republican, small r. And they were indulged in Bavaria for a while and migrated to France and migrated to Haiti and migrated here. But they were suppressed in Bavaria by the king, who sort of felt that he didn't really need anti-monarchical organizations infiltrating, since usually the honorary head of Masonic bodies was either the king or some a notable luminary of the country. I think the last one in the United States was Gerald R. Ford, who was, an honorary Grand Master in the Freemasons. And as harmful as anyone who knows anything about Gerald Ford would know, what wouldn't hurt a pussycat, because his wife would yell at him. But that's neither here nor there. They've both gone to their reward. And
they've both gone home to Jesus.
He was a Boy Scout too. He was an Eagle.
Mm-hmm.
He once did an ad for the Boy Scouts wearing a Scout uniform while he was president for that month and a half that he was president.
Yep.
So I give him credit for that.
And thanks to Chevy Chase, he'll always be remembered falling down.
Synchronicity. Hold on. We all stop now. That's a synchronicity. Today I was thinking about Chevy Chase. But I was thinking about born in Arizona, moved to Babylonia, King Tut. Buried in his jammies, King Tut.
Well,
so you don't hear his name that often. That's a synchronicity.
Isn't there a Chevy Chase city? Chevy Chase, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
There's a road in Louisville, Kentucky, Chevy Chase.
Yeah. So I thought it was interesting when I was looking into the Illuminati, which, by the way, I feel like it's an opportunity to spin up an organization called the Illuminati, when it's all focused about aluminum, the metal.
I thought you
the secrets of riddle trap.
Like, with the foil hats, the Illuminati.
Oh, man.
That's great.
And in Britain, they're the Illuminati.
Right.
Illuminati.
But anyways, I came across it. All communication for the Illuminati was done with a cipher, and members were given classical names like Weishkapotz or whatever was Spartacus. So they didn't. So it makes me think about Alan and your cipher. Maybe get a hold of Illuminati transcripts and run through those with your secret cipher, the UFOnauts, and see what that produces.
I have.
Oh, okay.
That was one of the first things I did. Not with the. I don't know that there's a gap between the suppression of the Bavarian Illuminati and the Illuminati in France, which actually overthrew the French crown and was influential until most of them were beheaded during the terror, and Napoleon came in and they were no longer there. But an interesting fellow by the name of Theodore Royce, whose name you may know, attributed as a founder of this group. I'm trying to think of their name. The OTO, I think is the name, the Ordo Templi, something or other. Anyway, he reorganized the Illuminati. He was a Anglo-German. He was German, but and rumored to be a spy, by the way. Depends on whose spy he was, who you talk to. But he revived the Illuminati, and that overlapped somewhat with his work with developing the Academia Massonica, which became the OTO. Founded by Karl Kellner and Theodore Royce. So whether there's overlap in membership in the early days, like turn of the 19th to 20th century or not, it's hard to say, because all secret societies have in common certain, just like the Boy Scouts, they have degrees, they have oaths, and usually they have ceremonies that go with them. That's just part of the culture.
So it says here that for conspiracy theories, the Illuminati is blamed for the French Revolution and the assassination of JFK.
Oh yeah, because now you're digging into
the first one. Yes, they definitely had a great deal to do with the French Revolution, and maybe with the execution of the king and queen, and basically people who were not of the same mental framework as the Illuminati were, they were not all, diehard atheist, anti-monarchist Republicans, and that kind of vanished, and they were beheaded, because the next phase of the French Revolution was the purging of suspicious organizations, and they were certainly suspicious. But the thread, I have a book coming out on the history of modern magic, 1700 to 2000, which I've got to write. I've got to write a new introduction that takes in the last 20 years, because the history since 2000 is its own story. It would make a whole book itself, but I'm not up to that. I'll just write an introduction saying, well, here's what happened since 2000. So don't get your panties in a wad. I'll tell you briefly what happened since then. But where was I going with that? Come on.
We were talking about the Illuminati and
senior citizen.
We were talking about the Illuminati and French Revolution, and then
yes, but not JFK. First of all, with JFK, honestly, I was out of the country. I was on a kibbutz in Israel, pulling rocks up and weeding plants, and it was 3 days after the man had died that I heard about it, because somebody listened to the BBC and they said, Kennedy is dead, and then they said the assassin is dead, and the assassin's assassin. So I had nothing to do with it. My friend Carrie Thornley was a suspect in the New Orleans investigation into the Kennedy assassination, but I am of the simplistic school there, and I had a number of people that convinced me, because I tend to think, it's hard to think that one guy with a single bolt action rifle could do all this damage. But I've watched experienced marksmen duplicate what was done to Kennedy, and it could well have been done by one person. Doesn't mean that other people weren't egging him on, because he was a member of the Fair Play for Cuba Committee, which was a supposedly a left-wing organization. But for the Illuminati to have done something like that would imply that there's a reason for it, and the only one I can think of was they were anti-Catholic. So
yeah.
So Joe, be careful.
Yeah. One of the things that I liked about the old school Illuminati, because in my opinion, everything just gets blamed on the Illuminati now. It's like the go-to conspiracy theory is, it's the Illuminati. But I love basically the war they had with the Rosicrucians, because it's like, here's one secret society against another secret society. Like, I feel like this was some Harry Potter action happening.
Well, I probably actually people in leather jackets snapping in a parking lot was probably what it was.
Oh, that's how you saw it. And it's just constantly throwing fog down so that nobody knew who they are. It was the quietest.
The Rosicrucians are much older. I mean, they go back to at least 1600s, and if you believe their own legend, they go back to the 1400s. Right. So, and they also had, they were basically alchemists and proto-Protestants. So they were a very interesting group of people that went off in many different directions, so that you could say truthfully that there are many valid Rosicrucian paths. My favorite being P.B. Randolph's introduction of Rosicrucianism into the United States, and with it, certain, shall we say, erotic secrets that go with the rose crucified upon the cross, which, as they say about Fellini, a train goes into a tunnel. You don't have to be Fellini to figure that one out.
Yay. Is Golden Dawn on our list? Because that's what I think of when I think of Rosicrucians.
It is, but we've got to get to one that was dropped at the top of the show, Skull and Bones.
All right, is that where we're at?
That's where we're at.
We made it! We made it, Alan!
We made it all the way. You mean we've been capped? I've always wanted to be a Skull and Bones. I just didn't want to go to school. I mean, the U of A was good enough for me. I'm not an Ivy Leaguer.
I wanted to be at Harvard. I wanted to be a National Lampoon. That's what I wanted. I wasn't wanting to do.
They don't bother with that, but they're too busy becoming presidents and heads of banks and blah, 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 blah. The thing is about Skull and Bones, there are 50,000 different descriptions of what their primary ritual is, rumors about what the, what do they call it? The tomb. That's their temple on campus, which is tolerated, is all about. And one is that you're supposed to confess all of your sexual misdeeds to the gathered people. Another one is all of the current members urinate upon the new candidates. I don't know if any of those are true. I suspect they're not. What I suspect is true is they say, give us allegiance and you have the best contacts in the United States of America for becoming a somebody. And they, unlike a lot of these groups, really live up to that. They're all from, quote, good families anyway. But there are so many members of Skull and Bones that have gone on to fame and fortune. They're not necessarily good people or bad people, but they're successful. And that's quite something.
So for those that may not know, was founded at Yale University in New Haven, Connecticut in 1832 by founder William Huntington Russell, which sounds like it should be like a sport coat or a smoking jacket.
It is. The Russell jacket. It's well known. So you are a bonesman. Come on. Mess up.
So it says that he was inspired by an occult society he'd visited in Germany.
Well, I've seen that, and that there's some rumor that whether or not that's real or not. Because one of the things I heard, I listened to this really great podcast on Skull and Bones, and they were talking about he was just bored because the clubs back then were just things he wasn't into. It was like English and math, and it was like that was all the clubs that was there. He was kind of interested in theater, but wanted to do his own thing, and so he said, "Fucking, I'm going to create this club." Is essentially what they said. It's like the legit.
Well, all Greek societies on campuses have rituals. Some of them are hazing, and you hear the occasional candidate dying during, swallowing goldfish or whatever. It's all revealed in Animal House if you want to look at it.
Yes, another great documentary.
Yes, it shows the entire process. Actually, the smack across the derriere is taken from the Shriners, who that's with a firecracker attached to it. That's the way they bring new people in. And you probably don't forget the firecracker across the buttocks. But in any case, Skull and Bones is a real organization. But to me, it's a rich people's campus organization that has a code of secrecy which amounts to protecting one another if they get in trouble. And you have a case in this century where you have both candidates of the quote major political parties unquote being members of Skull and Bones, which probably means that there were places they could go in terms of each other's criticisms and places they couldn't go. And that should not have an effect on political dialogue. On the other hand, more recent years have given me the view that maybe politeness is not such a bad thing.
Right. Amen.
Well, and it says here that they only select, so each year they pick 15 seniors to join Skull and Bones. Out of the entire
Correct.
senior class, they only pick 15 each year to join.
It's called tapping, and there are all kinds of licit and illicit tap books on campus for guys that are interested in joining it. I believe it's still an all-male.
Yeah, that's what it says here.
Yeah. Well, if you get tapped, then you're one of the 15 and you're told to be in a certain place at a certain time. And then they take you to the tomb. And I think most or all of them get in because they're sort of pre-screened, as the credit card companies say. Congratulations, you're pre-screened.
Right.
And they're usually from families that, a lot of them are legacies, but that's true in a lot of fraternities, right?
Right.
A legacy has a leg up on membership. So you have generations of significant and important people whose names you would recognize. And if we had more time, I'd give you a complete list that joined that particular society. And but that process is typical of all fraternal organizations.
So moving on, because we're at number 5 on the list, we've got total of 9 to go through. So Bilderberg, I had not heard of this one before. Bilderberg.
They are financially oriented, and they're one of that second group that I was talking about. They are not a chowder and marching society in any sense. They really are a group of bankers, industrialists, whatever, that are interested in keeping the world economy. I'm not putting it charitably, I'm just saying it like it is, keeping it in their pockets. And, the ratio of people who are really, really wealthy, I'm not talking about, the millionaire, I'm talking about the billionaires that are, I don't want to say too much like behind the scenes right now. After this whole QAnon business, I've been reluctant to sound conspiratorial. They're not conspirators. Yeah. They're greedy business people who look to have essentially, the word used to be cabal, which comes from the word Kabbalah, which means secret, but they work behind the scenes to ensure the orderly transfer to their children of the wealth of the world.
So for GameStop fundage. So
yeah,
right.
Well, it says here like previous guests of or members have been Bill Clinton, Margaret Thatcher, Angela Merkel, Tony Blair, Henry Kissinger. So
all trilateral commissioners as well, but that's more official and a little bit more open. But the Bilderbergers are what I've been fighting all my life. Not that specific organization, but that headset that says, we're not competitors. We are we're in this together in order to have the wealth of nations in our hands. They're not even necessarily interested in power in the political sense, which is something the conspiracy people get wrong. If it serves their interests, they are. If it doesn't serve their interests, they're not. Sometimes they are in opposition to the political powers. It all depends on money. Money makes the world.
What do you got for origins on them? I know where I had heard of them is that I know a documentary came out a couple years ago, and it's been on my list for a long time. I've never watched it though. So
it says the first meeting was held in 1954 at the Hotel de Bilderberg in the Netherlands.
That's true. At least as the Bilderbergers, that's where the name came from.
Yeah.
But if you think there was a time in which there weren't people who became Bilderbergers or who were the ancestors of Bilderbergers who had been meeting before then you don't know the history of the New York Stock Exchange. I mean, it's as old as paper money. As old as stocks. It's a way of gaining power in the economic sense, a very successful one.
So
I want to join. Do I get to be a...
So moving from the economic power to the political power, the Bohemian Club.
Wow. Well,
which it didn't start out that way, I know, but that's pretty much what it's turned into. So it started out with pretty much being for journalists, artists, and musicians that wanted to get involved with things and have a place where they could meet and share ideas. But from what I've researched and found, is it's more or less now is the again conspiracy theory out there is that the Bohemian Club is responsible for who gets nominated for presidency for the two major powers.
Well, certainly the people who are big players in political power go to their strange annual, well, it's not so strange now with Burning Man, which is for ordinary hippies that are not aspiring to anything but getting stoned. Not to disparage that. They are part of that quasi-pagan ritual where they, and I think that's just their point of departure. That's why it was at one time mostly, as you say, artists and poets and people of goodwill, but it quickly became, which is what happened to Masonry in the 18th century. Started out as members of a guild who built things and became a secret society, because guild secrets consisted of things like special handshakes. So if somebody came in and said, "I'm a master builder," they said, "Give me the handshake," because you wanted somebody who came. Mostly they were not literate people or not highly literate, so they didn't have credentials, but if they knew the proper pass and password and all that, and that intrigued some aristocrats, and there you had it. The same thing is true there. It started out as a society of people who probably started out with the same sort of motivations that Burning Man has, and attracted enough important people, however one chooses to define that, then it became the place to go to hobnob with the Bush family or the Kennedy family. Well, I don't know about the Bush family. And
so what they've got here for prominent figures.
Prominent figures like the Bush family.
Right. Well, you remember in the beginning of the show
on the Bush family, George W. Bush has to ditch his plane in Japanese waters, and mysteriously a submarine just happens to be there to rescue him. And mysteriously also there's a photographer on board to record his rescue. But that's just coincidence. It's not even synchronicity. Right. I would never think otherwise.
Well, it's interesting because remember at the beginning of the show, I had mentioned, I was like, oh yeah, H.W. Bush was a part of another group. This is what I was talking about. So talk about synchronicity, because I didn't know what your list was going to be either, Josh. So I heard about this for the first time today on a podcast I listened to. It's a fictional one called Tanis, and they were talking about the Bohemian Grove and all that. And in that, they were talking about H.W. Bush was being there. And then of course they talked about the journalists that broke in and like got like all sorts of like information on it, and then Alex Jones came in there in 2000 and like filmed the cremation of care ceremony and all kinds of crazy shit. So
that may serve to get them to move to a different location and do a show there similar to what I was describing about the nice Baptist families being shown secret Masonic rituals with Jesus prancing around and giving, I mean, they are very powerful people, not all of them,
Yeah.
And I haven't heard of anyone who was caught on the premises, Alex Jones included, who were anything other than escorted off the premises.
Right.
Which is,
Yeah.
They're right. It was, if they were of murderous intent, some people would have disappeared. I haven't heard a single case of that. They are interested in power and not scandal. So,
well, and I would imagine that in today's, society, murderous intent could also be career murder, type situation. So
that's why I'm not saying they have grace in their heart and forgiveness and say, "Oh, would you please leave our private ceremony? Here, we'll call you a taxi. You're a taxi." But it's because they don't want anything that's going to interfere with some of them are not in political power, some are in banking or whatever. Did I say a funny?
You did.
I
can't stop laughing about you're a taxi. I just don't have time.
Yeah. Well, I still like that, the thing that I liked about them was that big owl that they have that symbolizes wisdom. It's like supposed to be 30 to 40 feet tall and in the middle of the redwoods. It's like, I want to go see that just to see it, like that's something that stood out to me that I heard.
But
another podcast.
And
there are photographs of it.
Yeah.
I'm looking at one now. It's pretty neat.
The other thing that I thought was really interesting about them is their club motto is "Weaving spiders come not here," which is from Act 2, Scene 2 of Shakespeare's Midsummer Night's Dream, and it basically is intended to be, "Don't come here and do business deals."
Yeah, they're not supposed to, but
but they walk around in the woods together, two by two, and have, well, okay, you can win, and but your bank account is going to get a lot bigger, and I'd like to give you a stock tip or two. And I mean, of course people talk. I mean, it's ridiculous to really even think that people of political stature in society are going to go out and see them burn their effigy and do whatever little ritual they do, and then not talk about the sole interest in their life. That's just not going to happen.
All right, so moving on from there, Stefan, you asked a while ago, this is number 7 on the list, the Golden Dawn.
Yay, Golden Dawn!
So I feel it important to call this out that in my research, I came across a group operating currently in Greece calling themselves the Golden Dawn that is a neo-Nazi group in Greece. This is not that.
Yeah, because you brought that up earlier to me and Santosh, and I was like, wait, they're not connected, are they?
No.
Well, it may be a translation problem from the Greek. It actually is called the Golden Showers of Magic. And who's to say, No, the Golden Dawn, first of all, I don't think it qualifies anymore as a secret society because everything that they do has been published by not members. Well, first it was published by Aleister Crowley, who had been an initial member, and that had caused great consternation among the various groups that were descended from the original Golden Dawn. The original Golden Dawn, the general story is that in the Society Rosicruciana in Anglia, which preceded it and overlapped somewhat with the Golden Dawn, in its library was found a coded message, which you can, if you just look for Rosicrucian coded message, you will see pictures of every page of it on Google. So it's It's there for you to see. And supposedly it was the product of a Fräulein Sprengel in Germany, who, I'm sorry, I have a code in my head. I have several codes in my head, actually. But
one of them is your PIN code for your bank, right?
Yeah, and sometimes I remember it, and sometimes that's not important, and I'm not giving that out over the air. But what is important is that they decoded this. The general feeling is that Fräulein Sprengel is fictional, and that probably somebody in the SRIA, which has an American counterpart, by the way, that still exists, as does, as far as I know, the SRIA, translated this coded message, and it was the basic ritual of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, which fortuitously for them arrived as a secret society at the end of the 19th century. It never had more than a few hundred members, but such members. Florence Farr, who was Bernard Shaw's mistress or wife, or both, and at different times. Crowley, people who Yeats.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I mean,
Yeats.
it was. Yeah, I mean, and Yeats continued to be influenced by them. Horror book writers like Arthur Machen was a member. Supposedly, Bram Stoker was a member.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
And I haven't ever seen him on their little list. The list, when I finally obtained that, is only like 300 people. You know, that's like Temple of Set size. That's just not what you think of, because it was very influential far beyond. But it predictably broke up in the early part of the 20th century, and all of the organizations that developed afterwards. Crowley had one, and it claimed descent from them, and there's the one that Dion Fortune set up, and there are a bunch of others. And they all, you know, are descended from the Golden Dawn. And finally, everything that the Golden Dawn had to offer, Israel Regardie, at one time Crowley's secretary, but more to the point, a member of one of those descendant organizations, published what are known in occult circles as the Yellow Pages, which is this huge book, a revision of an earlier book that he had done, which basically is rituals of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. And there's nothing secret about that. There's an American branch that sort of copied the OTO in going to court and getting the exclusive rights to call themselves the Golden Dawn, based on Israel Regardie's say-so, which I won't give you the amusing story I often tell about the last minutes of Israel Regardie's life. But
well, and I was looking at so I guess this order had 3 orders, or 3 levels, whatever you want to call it. So the first order taught esoteric philosophy based on the Hermetic Kabbalah. The second order, or inner order, and I'm not even going to attempt Rose, Ruby, et Cruces. That's my attempt.
Red Ruby and Cross of Gold.
Yeah.
This is America, not Rome. So.
Taught magic, including scrying, astral travel, and alchemy. And the third order was that of the secret chiefs, which when I read that, immediately went to your book with the calling out of the secret chiefs.
Exactly, because the whole concept of the secret chiefs, under a variety of names, predates the existence of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. I was going to say, I believe that Fräulein Sprengel actually existed and was a member of a German equivalent that got maybe the Cross of Gold Society or whatever it was called. I I would have to look it up because it was not something that directly was influential. And she was given permission for a while to, spread the rituals to other places. But all of these organizations that are in that Golden Dawn lineage, including those that came before it, like Crowley's AA was not the first AA. In fact, in an 1875 book, or 1873 book, P.B. Randolph mentions intriguingly, our order is as in the AA. And it seems to go back very far. And if you buy into the gestalt of it, the secret chiefs have always been around. What they are human beings who have ascended to the equivalent of that third stage, which I doubt that you could get into in any of the permutations of the Golden Dawn, because they really they do the rituals, but in my opinion, they're all relatively clueless. That is, they get into certificate fever.
Right.
Wallpaper, it's called in the trade, which is they get into having these high exalted titles, and if they start out really on the quest for illumination, they wind up on a quest for the next big degree. And that doesn't, secret chiefs are like the Mahatmas in the Theosophical Society.
Yeah.
Think of the same people that have ascended, but like the bodhisattvas in Buddhism, and maybe the same people for all I know, rather than choose to go on to bliss, nirvana, they choose to stay not so much corporeal, but with the human race until all sentient beings are liberated, to borrow the term from Buddhism. And I think that's who the secret chiefs are. And they ain't got nothing to do with the Golden Dawn as described in America today. And if you just work the rituals by yourself or with a little group of people and don't call yourself some past and long dead organization with no living members, chances are you have a better chance of making it into that upper stratum than you do if you use the name of organizations that you are not entitled to, because they've come and gone, and there are reasons that they come and go. As Crowley once said about his grandmaster in the Golden Dawn, Mathers, the secret chiefs cast him off. I think they cast off Crowley, they cast off Theon Fortune. Doesn't mean that they were awful people. It means that at a certain level of development, you either get it or you don't get it. And if you don't get it, there's not too much to be done. You can go through college and not understand, even if your major is physics, not understand physics, then you're a physicist, because let's face it, nobody understands physics anymore. But the point is, the secret chiefs are not going to say, okay, you made it this far, so ascend with us.
Yeah.
And I tend to hold with things that persist through history under various names, and secret chiefs are one of them. But their affiliation with the Golden Dawn is debatable.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with the system. I mean, it's very, very late 19th century, fin de siècle. Is that the way to pronounce it? Fin de siècle, end of the century madness. We had a little of that in Y2K, but but we're getting more of it now.
So, next on the list. Sorry, I'm not really sure how to transition to the next one. But Order of the Oriental Templars.
Order is this? So this is
Ordo Templi Orientis.
Them. I remember them. Didn't they go out of it? No, I guess they're still there. It's just Wasserman that passed on, and may he rest in pieces. So what can I say? In P.B. Randolph's time, he introduced to the West what amounts to tantric magic, which is to say sexual magic. And one of the members of the successor body he died under strange circumstances in 1875, leaving it to a committee until his son Osiris Buddha Randolph grew up and could claim the organization. Well, Osiris became a physician, mainstream physician, and was not interested in it. So Kate Corson Randolph, his widow, who was very young when he died, sold the rights to the Brotherhood of Euless, I think it was called, to guy in one of the two rival Rosicrucian societies here in America, R. Swinburne Climbers Group, which still exists, although the major one is Amorc in California, which used to advertise in every issue of Life and Look and magazines that have gone on to their reward. Crackle, crackle, crackle. They are strictly mail order, and they have hundreds or thousands of members and rake in the cash, I think. But because you pay by degree, which is not dissimilar from the OTO, not coincidentally, because Kellner, one of the founders of the OTO, was also a member of Peter Davidson's Hermetic Brotherhood of Light, which was followed the path of the Brotherhood of Euless pretty much to the letter. It's all in my books, the secret stuff and all that. I don't know which book it's in, but it's coming out in another book because secret stuff needs to be published and republished until people actually don't consider it secret anymore. And
is that the name of the book, Secret Stuff?
No. But it will be. Give me a year or two.
Okay. It'll be whatever the title is, AKA Secret Stuff.
Double secret
called,
stuff.
Something like this. The name comes from my publisher, not from me. It's called. I wanted to call it the Tin Cup because of something on Hellier that struck me as very familiar, but it's called the Inner Grail, I think.
I like that. I'm not gonna lie.
And it's never been published before. There were when I wrote it, I hand distributed it to the highest initiates for free for nothing. Hand distribution of 93 copies, and that is the only circulation it's gotten. So to use another term from Randolph, printed, not published. Now it's going to be published and presumably also printed. So I leave that to my publisher under the name, whatever I said it was.
Inner Grail.
Yeah, the Inner Grail.
Like that.
The subtitle is The True Quest for the Holy Grail, which was the original name for the printed, not published version. But most people have not seen it, and I think it will be a valuable contribution. Anyway,
I can't wait.
Yeah.
Dead serious, I can't wait.
Signed copy?
Any day now. There were a few corrections that I asked for, and I wrote a new little introduction saying, I didn't really write this honest. Blame my publisher, or something like that. But by the time Kellner passed on in the early 1900s, Royce took over the OTO, and Royce carried with him two secrets. One was the form of Freemasonry. Kellner had been a regular Freemason, initiated into a lodge in Austria, he was an Austrian industrialist, and the other being the secrets of sexual magic. And the system that the OTO evolved was the primary degrees were essentially Masonic degrees, very little different from those familiar with regular Masonic degrees. But the upper degrees from 7th, 8th, and 9th degrees, the penultimate degrees, are teachings of sexual magic at various stages. Mm-hmm. One is autoerotic, one is, and one is heterosexual, and that's an 11th degree, which has been called a homosexual degree, but whether that's changed over the years or not, I don't know, but it does involve the forbidden zone, to coin the name of a movie, not necessarily between people of the same sex. So that just may be a cop-out, and I'm sure my teacher would object to that. But in any case, that's what they do on paper. After Royce inducted Crowley, based on the fact that he had stumbled upon the inner secret, Crowley put a lot of the stuff from the Book of the Law into the Masonic rituals, so that instead of the hidden master being Hiram Abith, it became some Islamic saint. I don't remember his name, even though I used to perform these initiations.
It says here that after Crowley came in, they reorganized around Crowley's thelema as its central religious principle, and then everything else was just...
Yeah, if you buy the fact that Aleister Crowley legitimately became the world leader of the Ordo Templi Orientis. However, I have a letter from Theodore Royce, who lived for several years after Crowley said, I am taking over this organization from you because you're crazy. Or, I'm kind of abridging it. Crowley was more eloquent than that. Royce basically wrote him a letter saying, and again, I'm paraphrasing, all the letter is on my desktop, emblazoned among many great things. If only people could read them, they would all become secret chiefs. But maybe I'll put them in a book, a future book. Called The Ice Cream Madness of Alan Greenfield. Now that would sell, if only to people that didn't like me and wanted to. Anyway, forget that. The letter basically said, you can run your MMM, which means those primary degrees, but I will continue to run the OTO. And as far as I can see, basically Royce fired Crowley. And then after Royce died, Crowley claimed that Royce had given him the nod, and he assembled a little group of his toadies to vote him in as the supreme leader of the OTO. But that's really questionable. The court case that involved Marcello Moda is he was the easiest target on the map. Notice they didn't go after Kenneth Grant or any of the other people. I don't think any of them are the original OTO, just like I don't think the Golden Dawn is the original Golden Dawn. The one thing that is true of the OTO is they do the Crowley rituals more or less as they were originally written, but as modified by the current leader of the pack, and who is not a particularly good ritualist. So they've definitely done a little downhill. Right. But I would say if you want to learn sexual magic, there are better places to go to.
Well,
And it does
Which-
qualify as a secret society, though, because it is, the things that I'm saying, I am violating past oaths even to say. But you know what? I discovered something in my ceremonious separation from them, which is oaths taken in haste under misrepresentations are not valid. And I feel that I'm not violating anything any more than Crowley, who genuinely thought that the Golden Dawn had gone south under Mathers, was breaking his solemn obligations to the Golden Dawn by publishing their stuff in his overpriced set of books, The Equinox. So, if I'm guilty, so is he. And if I'm not guilty, I guess on that one count, he's not guilty.
Right. And of course, you've got Gerald Gardner, heavily influenced by Golden Dawn and Thelema, and was even granted a charter to run an OTO camp in England.
I know it used to hang over my bed, and
Yeah.
Well, so
you know my story.
Yeah,
then.
you told us about that. Yeah.
King of the Witches.
Yeah.
well, so
Look, lady, King of the Witches. To get closer, just climb on the bed. Feel free. So I'm the King of the Witches, and you want to be a witch, and I'll cut you right to the third degree, the great right.
Even guards, even my coven, my group, and just the larger group at large, they all still even look at Gardner and go, okay.
Well, so it's interesting that you went there, Stefan, because that is the 9th and final one on the list.
Really?
Yep.
Witchcraft or Wicca? Very
Wicca.
Important, different.
Wicca in general, yeah, very different. So
Have
the
I
Gardnerian
mentioned on your-
specifically?
So I have Gardnerian Wicca is the last
Okay.
entry.
Gardnerian Wicca is the only group of Wiccans that I have any respect for at all. Not because of the legendary history of the Book of Shadows. I have read the Book of Shadows in the 3 handwritings of Gerald Gardner, and large sections of it are taken from Golden Dawn rituals, OTO rituals, and regular Masonic rituals.
Yep.
So I would say that it's not Ye Book of Ye Art Magical from the Middle Ages. It's Ye Book of Gerald Gardner from the 1940s.
Of shit he was into is what it is. And that's what I'm saying. Even as Gardnerians, most of us are still yeah, we know.
Yeah, well, that's true now. It was not true in the first 20 years.
Right.
When it was introduced to America by, what was her name? Sybil Lee.
Yes.
And then taken up by the Long Island Coven, which went by the book. They believed it to be the ancient book of witchcraft that they were following.
Well, I mean, his history of witchcraft and most of his books made it seem that way, and that was part of his thing. He had his museum, and everything. I mean, as much as I think he was definitely onto something, of course, or I would not have been a part of it. I know he was also looking at it as a cash cow and a way to get his smacking butts on and getting his loving on. So,
which, by the way, most of that which he's accused of creating whole cloth, they come from OTO rituals.
Right.
The nudity exists in OTO rituals, where I won't say, except for $1.50 sent to me post-paid to Alan Greenfield. I wasn't in the country at the time.
He sent me $1 bill and 2 quarters in a postmarked envelope inside of another envelope.
And a Nabisco.
Box top.
Yeah.
Dr. Jack. Okay, so anyway, where were we in defaming?
Gardnerian Wicca. We won't even talk about the Alexandrians, are we going to?
But the point is that in Gardnerian Wicca, before the excessively post-feminist influence on Wicca that only began to appear in the 1970s, even though it was the ancient order of Wicca, I think has elements in it that are sufficiently numinous that they transcend any history they have. I mean, that's like asking, is the Bible literally true?
Right.
I don't know any serious scholar that thinks that is the case. Is it an important work comparable to the Iliad in Greece? I think so, and so do most scholars. That doesn't mean that Odysseus actually got seduced by sirens, or as we say in the South, sirens, on the island of whatever, Calypso or something.
Yeah.
I'm garbling the Iliad, but then the Iliad itself is garbled. So that's
right.
And it's a case of that which is numinous is valid, whether it's old or new. That which is not numinous, it doesn't matter if it's 40,000 years old and was invented by some shaman to get more shells and more shamanesses, whatever his or her motive may have been. It's valid or not valid if it's not, it doesn't carry that numinosity that illuminates. So I think Gardnerian Wicca does. I think the further you get away from that, the less it does.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, you could find all that out in my book on Wicca, the true history of Wicca, which unfortunately is not written by me. Nor do I get royalties for it.
Oh, shit.
Nor do I know who wrote it.
Yeah.
So that rounds out our top 9, if you will. There are probably many more that we could talk about, but that's what I'll put together. Like I said, I wanted to have 9 in honor of our guest tonight. So, any closing thoughts or one that you think I should have added to the list that I didn't?
Well, I wanted to ask Alan real quick. I know because we talked about the secret chiefs, and one thing that continuously pops up in the books as well is the Black Lodge and the White Lodge, and kind of is that more of just an idea of good and evil, or is that more kind of rooted in some of these types of things, or whatnot?
Well, the Black Lodge is more a function than an organization. To be in the Black Lodge requires you to have gone through something equivalent to the Golden Dawn or the OTO or the AA or one of those similar systems all the way up through that second triad, and then be unwilling to go on either to Buddhahood, whatever you want to call it, or afraid to. After all, you would lose all those dandy pieces of wallpaper and maybe expose the hole in your wall, the hole in your head, as the case may be. Once that refusal takes place, a certain percentage of the people that reach that point go dark. That is, they don't want anybody to be above them in the hierarchy. That's why I oppose hierarchy, period. I'm not a great magician. I'm somebody that just does what I do, and you can judge it for whatever it's worth or not worth. And that's the way I look at myself in the mirror when I'm shaving. Cut myself a few times and enjoy drinking the blood, but that's not. Where
are we going here?
Where was I?
So once people realize that they don't want anybody to be above that second level, they are well advanced magicians who are determined to keep other people from becoming well advanced magicians, whether they work in a group as a Black Lodge or alone as Black Brothers, as it used to be called. That term is too much of a double entendre for me at this point.
So is it hubris that?
I think it's more just egotism. And at that point, you're supposed to renounce your ego and transit the great abyss, the path on the tree of life, represented by the letter Gimel, which means camel and is a narrow bridge crossing over to the higher planes. And if you fall off, you get eaten by the Lord of the Abyss, or so it is claimed. And I don't, I don't speak from experience on that one. Not all people that attain that level get into that kind of negativity, but organizations often do, because they're built around titles. You know, the Great Exalted Master, or what was it called in the Flintstones, the Grand Poobah or something like that. Nobody wants to give up being the Grand Poobah. And at least in Masonry in America, they're democratic, and you only serve for a year as a lodge master. And if you're a 33rd degree, that's as high as you can go in regular Masonry. It's more or less an honorarium. It doesn't make you the boss or anything. It's just saying, you stuck around through all 33 degrees, you get a special pin. And that is basically it.
You gave us a crap ton of money. We're going to give you a title and a special
Well,
pin.
there's that too. But they use, unlike the OTO, they use their money for charitable purposes to a large extent.
Yeah. Big
temples, I'll say that, but yeah. And in answer to your earlier question, I would include something like the BOTA, the Builders of the Antietam, and the Church of Light in California, because they brought out long before the Crowley deck or the Pamela Coleman Smith deck actually preceded that, the one that's associated with the Golden Dawn. It's also called the Waite deck. They came out with a black and white tarot deck, which was really the first you could get in America. I mean, I'm not saying that some groups of Roma didn't use them for fortune telling from Europe, but in terms of a deck that was followed the traditional pattern and was made in America, they did it. So, you know, they're still around. They are a direct descendant of the Hermetic Brotherhood of Light, which was headquartered about 100 miles from where I sit right now, here in Egypt.
Oh, you're out of the country again. Oh, okay.
Oh, God, what's going to happen?
No, but I will be after this program airs. I think it's called deporting, because I have no deportment. And there are probably a few others that I'm embarrassingly forgetting about that are not necessarily large, but that are secretive, but good at what they do. And, you know, that's, but the list of 9 certainly covers the ones that I probably would have ticked off if I was ticking them off, not necessarily in the same order, but and I think we covered them. The one caveat I put on is some of these organizations truly believe themselves to be enlightening. The problem is, if they ever were, they've long since ceased to be. And the best thing you can do is form a free luminous body that's beholden to nobody.
I agree. I think that can be said about most any spiritual practice, religion, is that after a long time it kind of loses its way because people are people.
See, Stefan, we're just going to have to form the FearScape Aluminum Naughty organization.
You can bake cookies on us.
You know. We can sell everybody foil hats and
sell our 3 Storios. Like, this is perfect.
Yeah.
This is perfect.
You're giving out trade secrets.
I know.
I'll be editing that out. No.
Yeah, I have an ongoing. I'm a freak for demographics, and I follow demographics very closely, partly from graduate school habits. But I have an ongoing dispute with the Pew Research Society, which monitors things around the world, but it monitors specifically American religious belief. And one of the things it goes by is church affiliation. And lots of people say none, and they've become a category for Pew called nuns. N-O-N-E-S, not the ladies in the hospital that wear the funny outfits, but although frankly magical robes are very similar funny outfits.
They do have some hard habits to break.
Hard habits.
I see what you did there.
But what goes on is a lot of the people who say nuns mean they don't go to a particular church. That doesn't mean that they're not spiritual people.
Right.
They may be pursuing individual spirituality or with a group that does karma yoga, or it could be almost anything. And I feel like they're going by a standard that might have applied in the 1950s. It doesn't apply now. And 90% of those people are not coming from a position of being anti-spirituality. They're coming from a position of, I've heard that all before.
Well, and I did a poll back before this last election. They were trying to gauge how people were going to vote and things and stuff. And I remember they asked a question around to try to gauge the demographics of who they were polling. And they asked the question around spirituality, and one of the answers or responses was spiritual, not religious. And so I gave that as my answer. But I wonder how many other places, if that was included as an option, how that would change those results on the Pew surveys. Spiritual, not religious.
Yeah, and there are people who are very devoted to alternative spirituality that you could class as religion. It depends on, in other words, the definitions are changing. Yeah. Millennials certainly do not define, they don't hear the words spirituality and religion in the same way that older people do. So they're going to respond differently. I mean, I'm religious about baseball, but that doesn't mean that baseball is my religion. That's right. It's probably a question that needs to be rethought by pollsters who are becoming less and less accurate, I'm afraid, because of cell phones, essentially. They're calling people that have landlines. Well, I have one, it's right over there. But the only people that ever call me are my youngest son, my oldest son, to tell me he's got a new movie coming out, and and my girlfriend. I mean, nobody else calls me. All the other calls are, "Do you want to buy a funeral plot, Florida?"
Or
and I say, I wouldn't be buried in Florida, but
you'll just float. I mean, that's all that'll happen.
Unless it's like the New Orleans graves above ground.
Right. Right. Well, I think we ought to get out of here. Is that right, Josh? We're about tapped here.
We're about.
Do I get to sing? Beckley let me sing Silent Night on Christmas Eve on his show.
Let's see. This will
I've stopped you there.
Valentine's Day. So yeah, give me some Frank Sinatra. Man.
Barry White. I mean,
Barry White. Yeah.
I do Sinatra better than White, but. Give me a song. Name a song.
Fly Me to the Moon.
Fly me to the moon. By the way, that's my least favorite of all songs.
Synchronicity,
Fly me
man.
to the moon. Let me dwell upon the stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words, please be true. That's a term that has changed. In other words, I love you. Mwah!
We love you too, Alan Greenfield. Thank you so much for joining us. Guys, get out there. Check out his books. Check out his websites. Check out all his stuff. Give this man your money and get ready for
And I'll give
Inner
my
Grail.
wisdom in return. My great wisdom of 74 years of of trying to
and of course, when your new book comes out, let us know, because we will market the hell out of it. We'll let everybody know, because I know all of our listeners will be very interested in all of that. And yeah, so again, thank you, sir. You are always welcome on this damn show.
And I appreciate that I email you and you respond, so that's always a plus.
Yes.
So.
we'll call your landline next, so
good luck on that one. You'll get a machine voice that'll say, please leave your name and number, and I will get back to you. The latter part is a lie if I don't know who you are. No way, Jose. Anyway, thanks, guys. It's been a lot of fun.
All right. Thank you guys so much for sticking around. That was Alan Greenfield. We love it. God, I love you, Alan Greenfield, so much. I wanna have your babies. Like, it's like that.
A lot of good insight there. I mean, especially towards the end. So, there is so much information out there about all the different secret societies that are around the world. And I like the stuff that I pulled together. We talked about tonight was really just the tip of the iceberg. Just the tip. And we could really spend a whole lot of time going really deep in on, like, pick one and just spend an entire episode talking about it. But thank you again, Alan, for coming on and regaling us with your stories.
Yeah, and do your own research, have some fun. If there's some secret societies that we didn't touch on or anything like that you think we should take a look into, hit us up. We'd love to hear more. We're always looking to add topics to our list. And again, thank you, Alan Greenfield. Get online, buy his books. He's well worth it. I've reread UFOnauts already once, and it's insightful, so it's really cool. Anyways, let's go ahead and move to our listener story. Remember, you can send your listener story to us at fearscapepodcast@gmail.com, or just go to fearscapepodcast.com and submit a sighting there, or hit us up on chat. Whatever you got to do, we want these stories. And this one comes from Denise. She's a blanket hugger listener there from Mississippi. So I think this is our first Mississippi story. So let's go ahead and take a listen.
Hi, y'all. Denise from Mississippi. So about 5-6 years ago, I was on my way home with my children. It was dark outside, and I saw this vehicle in front of me slam on its brakes and swerve around something in the road. Well, I figured it was a deer that had run in front of it, and I was about several hundred feet behind. Now, when I got to the same area, I also hit my brakes and had to swerve around a creature that was in the middle of the road. Now, y'all, this appearance terrified me. It was hairless and the color of a pale white human. Human-like, but malnourished and deformed. Its legs bent opposite of the direction human legs bend. Its face horrified me. It almost looked like it had no nose. It was extremely skinny, but really long and tall. Its fingers were abnormally long. It just sat there, staring at me as I passed it, going about 35 miles per hour. Now, normally, if I didn't have my children with me, I probably would have stopped trying to help, not knowing what was going on, but I didn't that night because my children were in the car, and I'll tell you, I was terrified at the sight of what I saw. I immediately called my husband to explain to him what I saw and see if he could get someone to go check on whatever it was, and he, of course, being law enforcement, went to check for himself, but he didn't find nothing there. But I'll tell you what, for months, I would not drive at night, especially down that damn road.
Woo!
Wow.
That's creepy as hell. That's like a number of different cryptids mixed together in my mind.
Yeah.
You got some Slender Man in there. You got some Mothman in there. You got
a little bit of Wendigo.
Wendigo, yeah. Ooh, get out of them woods. Yeah, girl. I'm glad you got out of there, Denise. I'm glad you're okay. Glad your kids are okay. But yeah, very, very scary story. We thank you so much. And again, just a reminder, send those listener stories to us. We love to hear them. We want to believe you. So anyways, yeah, that's pretty much the show, Josh. I mean, that's where we're at, dog.
Yep, that's the show.
That's the show. So make sure, check out all the stuffs, especially fearscapemedia.com, so you can check out all the other podcasts and shows out there. We've got a show, Astral Stew, on YouTube that we've got our second episode that's out with good old Santosh you want to check out. Also, just a heads up, in March we're going to be doing some fundraising, so we want to make you guys aware of that. Be on the lookout for that. Some opportunities to support us at FearScape, not just us at FearScape, but the entire FearScape Media Network. So there's going to be some really cool events, stuff like that. I'm even going to be reading tarot. My Wiccan magical name is Phoenix Moon, so I'll be reading tarot for people. All kinds of really cool stuff, Josh. I'm super excited about March.
Yep, and I think I'm gonna start maybe reading Darrow. That would be
fun. Reading Darrow. Yes, they're nice people.
But no, yeah, a lot of good stuff.
I've heard they're nosy though.
Yeah. Like a little long in the nose.
A little long in the nose, exactly. But anyways, let's get out of here, man. Thank you guys so much for tuning in as usual. We love you guys. This has been Stefan, and I'll catch you out there in the distance. We'll call it the flip side of things. I'm going to come up with a new catchphrase, Josh. It's going to happen, but I don't want to make it up ahead of time.
All the hollow earthers are out there. Like, the flip side is just rocky underground.
Yeah. So let's see. This has been Stefan, and I will catch you through the earth. All right. What are you, Josh?
It's been Josh. The truth is now.
Oh, God, I hate you. That's so good. Anyways, thank you guys so much. And remember, hold those blankets extra tight, because things tend to get spooky, weird, and satisfying when you're listening to FearScape. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
We hope you have enjoyed this guidepost on the road of high strangeness with us. And we thank you, as always, for listening and joining our caravan to the weird and unknown. Please consider supporting us as we continue our journey to find the answers we all seek. FearScapePodcast.com/support.